Alright, so this morning we're going to start a fence project here. I have my friend helping me. He's starting to dig this first hole. We're going to get the corners set, and we're going to do the rear yard, which will go over here and run into this fence, and then we'll pick back up towards the front yard where that fence ends. We'll do a fence across that'll go to the side of the house. And then we're going to do a fence on the right side of the house, on the other side of the house. And then we'll do a fence that returns to the house as well. So, this will be a weekly series again. And I'll kind of stop and try to fill you in as we go along. But for right now, we'll get started setting these holes. Alright, so this week started off, we pulled that string just to try to get a gauge from post to post. There were markers at the corners of the property lines that the homeowner had found. So I pulled a string to gauge that, and then I laid that out, and of course, like always, I forgot my marking paint, so I just used those bricks to mark out the spots where the holes were. So you can kind of see that the string goes into that mulch slightly. And you'll see in the future that's where kind of kiboshed us digging these holes, because it was just kind of easy to look at the mulch line and go from that, and some of the holes were a little off. So I cannot express with words how hot it was this day when we were digging these holes. It was probably in the mid 90s, and we were digging one hole at a time. You'll see right now, you can see here I have a thermometer there that I brought from the inside of the house, and we started digging one hole at a time. We went back to this shaded area. I would kind of loosen it with that vertical shovel, that tall shovel, and then my friend Ron would dig out the waste essentially, and we would do it one hole at a time, and then we would do about 2 holes and take a break. Here I just decided for fun, let's set that out in the shade. You see it says 80 there, but that is very deceptive. And you'll see in a moment here that it was basically stuck. And you see me tapping on it there. And when I started tapping on it, I noticed, it's kind of moving. Now you see the reality here. It was 105, 110 in the sun there. So we were taking breaks sporadically, every 2 holes. But it's a dry 100. How's that look to that first one now? Yeah, we're a little pretty good on that one there. These are okay. Yeah. Could almost live with that one if I went a little more over. God damn. So we pulled the string here just to kind of see how our holes lined up, and some of them we have to shift in towards the inside of the yard. This is actually the following day, and believe me, it cooled off tremendously that night. Storms went through, and the temperature, it almost felt cold outside compared to what it was. So we got those holes fixed, and here we're setting the first post on the corner. And this woman's house has the softest dirt. It's beautiful to dig in, but almost setting the stakes was not a problem, but sometimes the dirt would be so loose that I'd have to pack it around the stake just to ensure that it would hold, because the stake would just be loose even 18 inches in the ground. So you can see me there. I decided to pour a little bit of gravel in the bottom of the hole. That way at least the post is not sitting right in the dirt. That way maybe if water did get in, it wouldn't just sit there at the bottom of the post. And so we just poured a little glazing of gravel in there on the bottom, and then set the post on it. And once we had these two posts, I then strung up a line between them, and we had to do a little bit of trimming. Ron's trimming that tree there just so I get the string to clear with no obstruction. There, we're putting the string up, and well, a channel I follow called the Essential Craftsman, I just saw a video maybe about 2 weeks ago where he was showing some ways that you can tie string and get it incredibly tight, and he is very true about that. I got it so tight that even though those posts were staked in the ground, I was picking the post up 100 feet away off the ground. Now we're just kind of running all the way down the line, trying to get all the posts set. Which, even though it had cooled off, it was still quite humid and hot this day. The sun was just very unrelenting. But for the most part, this was uneventful. Kind of speed up a little bit here. This one here was a little wild because we attached it to the tree. On one side was all those piles of concrete from the old fence. The other side was a tree, so there's really no way to stake it front to back. So we just went with the tree. We did have a little bit of problem with these. I set a piece of that 3/4, that little 1x furring, on the string and on either end. I put that so it would essentially space the post 3/4 off the line. That way I could measure to the string. Everything looks good. Some people may wonder why I use these really tall posts. They're not going to be that tall. I just did that just in case for the grade. The homeowner asked if we could get a straight line, and I checked it and decided we could actually make it level. So here we're starting to mix the concrete. Just to get off topic for a moment here, we're starting to mix the concrete. I did 2 bags in each hole. Some of these holes were a little wonky because we had to egg them out on the one side. So some of them we added a little bit extra concrete. But for the most part, it was 2 bags in each one of these post holes. But anyway, back to the posts. I used 10-footers, and I decided to do that because I wanted to make sure, even though I'd have to cut them afterwards, and you'll see me do that shortly, I wanted to make sure I'd have enough height so that it would work out and I could adjust it for level and not have to be concerned about setting it to height. Looks good. once I level the string, then I checked it, and on the side in the foreground, I went with 6 feet. And in the side that we're looking at right now, back here against the fence, it was only off by 6 inches, even at level. So I said, well, let's go with level. The homeowner wasn't really expecting it, but you couldn't really even tell the difference. So I said, well, why not? I'll just go with level. I'm a carpenter, right? I strung the string level, and we just went with that. Now in the future, I just strung the string and we went with 6 on either end. And he just wanted it to be straight. So I just scattered around this dirt. The homeowner's going to bring in like a little bit of gravel later. Here, you see me putting a string line on there, or a string level on there. And I got lucky. I just moved it up one time, and Ron said, oh, that's perfect, that's perfect. Here I'm just marking out. I'm marking down a certain amount, and then Ron's coming behind me with a square and just marking all 4 sides. So using my little toy saw there, I had to just finish the cut with a slight little bit of cut. I mean, it was extremely close. You could have almost snapped it off, but figured we'd cut it with the Sawzall. So it started out the framing, and I'll do 3 2x4s in each section here. And I started out measuring. I just went down 60 inches to the top of the bottom board. See, I made a mistake here. I started out putting that board in the top first, and that was a mistake because it's so much easier when you start at the bottom, and then you can adjust it by, you know, opening or closing the post by bending them slightly. So I went 60 inches to the top of the bottom board, and then I went 1 3/4, I think, down, so you could just kind of adjust, and those fall right in once you have it open. You start from the bottom. But 1 3/4 down from the top. That way it gives me some room to put my post cap on and give the reveal for the 3/4 board I'm going to put on top. Here we're just marking them all out, that way I don't have to waste time marking them. So the key is you measure at the bottom, and then you can measure at the top and just kind of double check that they're close. And if they're not close, usually it's because the post is slightly out of plumb. And then you just make the call to, basically you just go with the bottom measurement. But certainly everything is variable, but for the most part, the bottom measurement should be the right one. And then you just force the middle, and usually then by the time you get to the third one on the top, it's perfect. Whoa. That looks pretty good. How about this? That's way out. Alright, so here's all the framing done. Ready for the fence boards now. I figured I'd take a couple minutes and just move some of these boards around. I hate when they're stacked on top of each other. I like to be able to get to one thing in each section. So then we moved it just to clear some driveway space. Still for sale now, so I don't think it's going anywhere. I did a lot of steps this day moving these boards. I think it took about 360 boards to do that back. 1 hour later, that is no joke. It did take about an hour. Alright, so I know everyone loves when I make the mistakes, so on these first three, I went to the top side of the line. The one in the extreme foreground, bottom right corner, that one was set right. And the homeowner noticed it. He said, that's a little crooked there. Deeper. Okay. Whoops. So I kept trenching as I went, and then every so often I would stop and just kind of smooth out the dirt, smooth out across the trench. You can see I started picking them one at a time and cutting a certain amount off, and then that would help me. I wouldn't have to be so concerned about how deep the trench was. So not too long after this, I realized that it was much, much faster to just take all 5. I had them in little bundles of 5. There you can see I got a stack of them, but I'm still cutting them singly. So after this, I lay them out and cut all 5 at once. It's just so much faster. This was very tedious. I probably checked it with the level every, I don't know, 3 or 4 boards just to ensure it was right. Or at least it wasn't going way too wrong. It just was so hot. Those are boards that were warped or crowned so badly I just did not want to use them, or damaged. These ones on top, I just pulled them right off. Most of them were warped and they just looked terrible, so I went down to the ones underneath. Round 2, I didn't hear a bell, but again, this was about another hour. This was the following day, and I figured I would just take a lot of time and stage it all. This took about another hour. I probably lost 10 pounds on this job so far. Very, very, very hot. And back here, at least on this backside, there is no protection whatsoever. One last level check. Looks good. Wow, sweating buckets out here. Two and 1/8. Be careful out there. So at this point, all I have to do is a 1x4 from post to post on top, and then put the post caps on. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll check back next time when we start working on the side yard fence. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.